Second point, dealing with the origin of salvation, it began with God's foreknowledge. It began with God's foreknowledge. First thing I told you was that salvation, it's before. It was before creation. It antedates creation. Second thing I want you to know is that salvation began with God's foreknowledge. God's foreknowledge. One verse I wanted to lift for you. Romans chapter 8, verse 29. Romans chapter 8, verse 29. That verse says this. Watch this. Listen to this. For whom he, God, did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he, being God, Christ, might be the firstborn among many brethren. The lot in this verse, but the part I want to concentrate on is the first part. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed into the image of his Son. Now you just shouted if you got it. I didn't even catch it when I first read it. It wasn't until I first got getting ready to come in here that the Lord showed it to me. Watch this. When you were created in whose image? Image of God. That's natural. All beings. Hellions, smellions, liars, cheaters, hustlers, gangsters, pimps, prostitutes, government officials, leaders, pastors, deaconess, deacons, ministry leaders, all human beings, black, white, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Laotian, Vietnamese, Filipino, all nationalities, all human beings were created in the image of God, just naturally. But those who have obtained this eternal salvation get changed into the image of the Son. And that's not by accident. See, you got to understand that God knew you would be born in his image and you would look crazy. He also knew that when salvation got to you, you would be transformed into the image of his Son. Can I ask you a question? When you look in the mirror, who do you look like? Well, maybe that's not the good question. Maybe the better question is, when you look in the mirror, who do you want to look like? When you look in the mirror, do you want to look like Jay-Z? Huh? When you look in the mirror, do you want to look like Young Jeezy? When you look in the mirror, do you want to look like Beyonce or Maya? When you look in the mirror, who do you want to look like? Denzel? When you look in the mirror, who do you want to look like? Jennifer Lopez? Maybe you don't want to look like her. When you look in the mirror, do you want lips like Angelina Jolie? When you look in the mirror, do you want a short haircut that look nice like Halle Berry? When you look in the mirror, are you a size 10 but you rather be a size 4? When you look in the mirror, or do you see 205 like me? The question is, when you look in the mirror, what do you want to see? And my brothers and sisters, let me tell you, you will never, ever be what God is desiring for your life until you can look in the mirror and want to look like the Son of God. And watch this. Here's the good news. Maybe today you don't want to look like the Son of God. Maybe today you'd rather look like some rap star. You'd rather look like some R&B singer. you'd rather look like some America's Top Model. Maybe you'd rather look like some movie star. Maybe you'd rather look like some TV star. Maybe you'd rather be a different color. Maybe you'd rather have a different shape. Let me tell you, in the dateless past, God has already predetermined one day you are going to leave such trivial things and be like Jesus. Here's the question. Why not do it today? Because let me tell you, Beyonce, if she ain't have salvation, she needs it. I know she says, I ain't going to compromise my Christianity. But you can't do that. Can't say that. And then talk about my body's too bootylicious for you, baby. Where's Brother Robert? Robert, I bless the Lord for Robert. He's at my house a couple of weeks ago. I'll say this and I'm hitting my last four issues and then we're going to get out of here, get to the communion. Robert's at my house the other day. And he said, Pastor, he said, you know, what's his name? Lil John. And I said, Lil John? I said, I'm thinking, is somebody at church named Lil John? I said, oh, because let me tell you why. This is to his credit. The young man doesn't present himself like he's into that. So when he said young John, Little John, I didn't immediately think rap. I thought maybe he's talking about some guy walking down Webster and Central. Because he doesn't carry himself like he's trying to be a thug. He's trying to be all hard. He's trying to be all, you know, there's a mug in it. So I was kind of thrown off. And so when I looked at him, I said, Little John, I said, you talking about the guy, the rap guy? He said, yeah, she's talking about the guy talking about what, you know, all that, okay, all that kind of crap. He said, yeah. He said, yeah. He said, did you know he has 3 degrees, college degrees? I said, no. I didn't know that. I said, let me tell you what bothers me about knowing that. He would rather you walk around talking about, okay, what? He'd rather you walk around with a pimp cup, with fake diamonds. He'd rather you walking around wearing bright colors like you pimpish gay. He'd rather you walking around with a perm and dreadlocks than let you understand that he's a smart dummy. Our young men are going to be dumb because they follow idiots. But there are some idiots who are getting paid to be idiots because really they're smart. Because really they're smart. And let me tell you, the smartest idiots are college-educated idiots. My grandmother said, too smart for their own britches. She called them smart dummies. Know a lot in books, but have no sense. So you are born naturally with the image of God, but when you become saved, you are being transformed into the image of the Son. Finally,